Do you know, I don't talk about having had been a single mum for 20 years for sympathy or any kind of popularity votes like wow you. I really talk about it because mostly upon reflection, because it's pretty hard when you're going through the actual events to see God in it, but upon reflection, it's just amazing to see how many, times God was just there with me. He was there the whole time, but it's just incredible. Like it's a life that I don't think I would want to repeat it if I had the chance to go back and do it again. I just don't know that I could do it again. But amazing, because we've been going through some really, really hard times the last couple of months, and every time we tell you we're having hard times, then something else comes, and then something else, and then every time we tell you about something else coming and something else coming, it seems to intensify the heat. And so I almost should just shush up and not say anything about this at all. But actually this last week has been incredibly testing and stretching, and has really broken me and grown me in ways that it can only be God. And I've had to revisit some really seriously deep trauma, and just believe that God's in it with us. And so unreal, because I just feel like God's speaking to me more and more lately, and he's just giving me more and more revelation, and it's just amazing. But I opened my Bible today and it landed on Judges, and it was Judges 6 verse 13, and it's I'll just read you this little bit here and then I'll talk about what the rest is. But Gideon said to him, "Please, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, then why has all this happened to us?" Honestly, that feels like it could have been the anthem of my life. God, if you're with me, then why has all this happened to me? And where are all his wondrous works which our fathers told us about when they said, "Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt?" But now the Lord has abandoned us and put us into the hand of Midian. And the Lord turned to him and said, "Go in the strength of yours and save Israel from the hand of Midian. Have I not sent you?" But Gideon said to him, "Please, my Lord, how am I supposed to rescue Israel? Behold, my family is the least significant in Manasseh, and I am the youngest and the smallest in my father's house." The Lord answered him, "I will certainly be with you, and you will strike down the Midianites as if they were only one man." And Gideon replied to him, "If I have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who speaks with me." And so anyway, it goes on, the verses go on to say that he put an altar, he prepared a young goat and unleavened bread, and he made an offering before the Lord, and he presented it. And then the angel of the Lord came to him, and he burnt up the bread and the meat, and it said the fire flared up from the rock, and the angel of the Lord vanished. And then Gideon realized that was the angel of the Lord, and oh no, I'm going to die from having seen the angel of the Lord. And then God says to him, "Peace be to you, do not be afraid, you shall not die." And then Gideon builds an altar, and then he, long story short, he tears down the Baal altar. He was still freaked out. He did it in the night instead of the daylight, because he was still scared of what the people of that town would do. And so he did the thing. He tore down the altar of Baal and the Asherah which was beside it. Then he built up God's altar, and he was supposed to be put to death for tearing down the altar. And so it just goes on to say that the Spirit of the Lord was with him, and he succeeded in everything that God said he would succeed in. But he was kind of pitiful. When you read in Judges, you read about his personality. He was like, "Oh, I'm so sad, it's so hard, I'm so, I'm not strong enough." And like, he just saw himself as this really basic human who can't do anything, amazing. And I just wanted to, and then I just did a little bit of research on this, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. So this is the summary of Judges 6:13 to 35. This passage is the moment when God calls Gideon, an ordinary and insecure man, to do something extraordinary. So he was going to rescue Israel from the Midianites, and this chapter, these verses shows Gideon's fear and his doubt and questions, and it shows God's patient reassurance and power. So it's really crazy because this last week, I've been going through this thing where I'm like, God, where are you? And doubting and so worried and so freaked out because I'm coming back into a place of trauma where I've been before, where it's been painful, incredibly, incredibly painful. And I've come back to this, God's brought me back to this place, or allowed me to come back to this place to feel these feelings again. And then I had to kind of work through it in a different way because we'd only just had the conversation of this is my area of my deepest weakness. My least trust in God is in this area. And so literally God allows me to go back through it again. And oh man, anyway, listen to this. Judges 6:13, when Gideon questions God, he said, if God's with us, why has all this happened? And where are the miracles our ancestors talked about? And I felt that deeply in my soul because honestly, I have been like that. If you're with me, why? I felt like I didn't do anything wrong. I was faithful. I loved you. I thought I was a good person, a good wifey, all these things why did I have to go through the pain and the torment of being in, an abusive marriage and bringing up children on my own and all that sort of thing. So the Bible says Gideon's hurting and he's confused. He believes in God, but he can't reconcile God's goodness with his current hardship. And honestly, I think that is what I've been through my whole life, knowing that God's good, but when I'm in the depth of the actual hardship, I lose my trust really quickly. And so I had to go through this again. God allowed me to go through this again and just understand that it might not feel like something good is coming, but his word is his promise, and his faithfulness to us is in the waiting. We're not going to see the fullness straight away, and our trust and our faith has to be in that time of waiting. And so it just says here that God allows honest questions, and he didn't scold Gideon for his lack of faith and his lack of trust. So it says even the faithful can struggle to understand God's silence. Asking God why is not a lack of faith. It is the beginning of deeper faith. And so I was a little bit consoled, thinking, okay, so I wasn't being faithless. I was just going, God, I don't trust you. I really just don't trust you. And my husband, my beautiful husband, who has absolute ultimate trust and faith in God, and he can just sleep while I'm just going, he was like, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to work out. And I've never actually had a man in my life. I've been a single parent for 20 years, so a man at all, but a man in general, saying that it's all going to be okay. I've never had anybody to say it's all going to be okay, and that was a really new experience for me. But so God responds also, not by explaining everything, but he gives Gideon a mission. So he goes, go in the strength that you have, I am sending you. And honestly, that felt so close to home because as Megs and I step out into the things of God, it's I don't feel strong enough, I don't feel qualified enough, I don't feel necessarily like the right person for the job, but God's go in the strength that you have because I am sending you. So if I am sending you, I will fortify you. And so it says God doesn't wait for us to feel strong. He actually sends us while we still feel weak because his strength fills the gap. So amazing, eh? So Judges 6:15-16 is Gideon feels too small. And so Gideon's saying, I'm the least of these, and my family's insignificant, and why me? And I think we can probably all witness with that at times. And the meaning of that is that God chooses unlikely people on purpose because he partners with our weakness so that his glory is unmistakable. Don't you just love that so much? Honestly, anything that God does in my life, it's like when something amazing happens to me, I'm like, that is all you, God. That is all you. And I know that people would look at me like, how or why or how could this be possible? I think even people think it's amazing that, single mummy of 4, and I built my business around all these children, albeit it is having a bit of a struggle at the moment. But you know what? I stayed afloat for 8 years with this business with all my babies, and I think people look at that as like that is an incredible achievement, and it really is. But I know that it is all God. I went in the strength that I had, but I really didn't have a lot. And so it is, it's me plus God equals amazing. So Gideon asks God for a sign, and God gives it, and Gideon's afraid, but God tells him, peace, don't fear. And the meaning is God doesn't shame your need for reassurance. He meets you in your fear, and he brings peace to your heart. And honestly, this week it's been like that. I've been like God, and then we've walked the beach, and then I felt this beautiful peace come over me, and God's spoken to me about other things that are amazing and beautiful, and just there has been a real peace inside of all of this trouble. And then Judges 6:25-27, it says, the first battle is spiritual and not physical. So before fighting Midian, God told Gideon to tear down his father's altar to Baal and the Asherah pole. And Gideon obeys, but he did it at night because he was scared of what people seeing him in the daytime pulling it down. But we are, again, me and Amiga are going through this ourselves right now, that the meaning of this whole bringing down the Asherah pole and bringing down the altar of Baal is that God starts the breakthrough in your own home before the battlefield. And sometimes obedience is shaky and trembly, but it doesn't matter because it still counts. And courage isn't the absence of fear, it's obeying God despite the fear. So all of this witness to me, because honestly this feels like my journey right now. Judges 6:28-30. I'm sorry this is long, but it felt like an amazing, I hope you've got 11, 12, 15 minutes to listen to this, because it just felt so profound to me that I thought it might help someone else as well. So God protects Gideon, and the town wants to kill Gideon for tearing down the idols, because this is a town of idol worship, and that's their God, and they're like, you've taken down our God. And but his father defends him and says, if Baal is really a God, let Baal defend himself. And so the meaning of that verse is that when you take step towards God, he will raise unexpected people up to protect you, and definitely feeling that just in the last few days. Judges 6:33-35, the Spirit of the Lord empowers Gideon. So the Midianites gather to attack him, and the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him, and Gideon blows the trumpet and people rally behind him. And the meaning is that when God calls you, he also equips you. His Spirit gives you courage, authority, and influence that you didn't have before. And I definitely am feeling that courage. That courage is definitely building up in me. And I know that I'm called, and I know that me and Megs are called, and I know that we are all called. And so, just when God calls you, he gives you, he's the one who builds you up. So these are the most beautiful. I love this so much. I'm just gonna give you the big message of that whole passage, and this is the heart of it. Number one, God can use you even when you feel weak, unqualified, or afraid, because he chose Gideon when he was at his lowest. Number two, God is patient with honest doubts and questions. So, Gideon questioned everything, and God still called him, even though he was so doubtful and he was so afraid and felt like he was so weak. God still called him. And number three, spiritual battles must be won at home and in the heart first. And that is definitely something that God's doing in our hearts at the moment. Because before fighting Midian, Gideon had to tear down idols. He literally had to tear down idols. We are going through that. You would have heard us talking about the whole idol worship and the idol of yourselves, an idol of your own gifts and talents and things like that. You would have heard us talking about that in the last couple of weeks. And honestly, God's still pulling that stuff down in our lives. Before he had to fight Midian, Gideon had to tear down idols. Number four, your courage doesn't have to be loud, but it does have to be obedient. So the point here is that even nighttime obedience is still obedience. So even if you have to do it on the sly and on the down low and whatever, it is still obedient, and I actually think even this group, it's a spiritual gig. It was an offshoot to my 30 plus and fabulous community, where it's a community of just fully women. And when God told me to change the name to just it's a spiritual gig, and then open it up for men as well instead of just the women that I had in the community, man, it was really hard. It was a hard breakaway because I had a lot of opposition, but so I just did it on the sly. Still got a ton of opposition that's still not unresolved to this day, because people got really annoyed about it being open. But anyway, obedience is obedience, and God's definitely blessing this obedience now. And number 5, when God's Spirit comes upon you, you become who you were meant to be. And so that is that Gideon went from hiding to leading a whole nation. And so that's God. When a Spirit comes upon you, you become all you were purposed to be. Amazing, eh? Isn't it amazing? So insane. So in one sentence, God takes anxious, doubting, ordinary men, turns them into a leader by meeting him in his fear, cleaning up his home, empowering him with the Spirit of God, and proving that, drum roll please, that God's strength is made perfect in our human weakness. What about that for revelation? I just, honestly, my mind is blown today. And I hope that was a blessing to you too. If you got all the way through it, we're almost at 17 minutes, but I just thought it was a really amazing passage of scripture, and it had a really, really beautiful, full meaning for me right now, and I'm sure that it's going to speak to somebody else as well. All right, blessings.